Hey everyone, just thought I'd do a quick little video on spring maintenance cleanup of an cordless electric mower. It'll work with pretty much any mower it applies to. This one just happens to be a Black & Decker cordless, 40 volt. Great mower, by the way. I've had it for about 4, maybe 5 years now. Works perfectly if you have a small to medium-sized yard. Awesome. No gas, no worrying about putting it away in winter. You just take the battery out, store it away, that's it. I probably should have cleaned it before I put it away, but the snow kind of hit and stayed, so I just threw it in the shed. So what I'm going to do today is take the blade off and clean out the grass and sharpen the blade, clean the blade up, sharpen it, and balance it. So what you're going to need to take the blade off, well, what you're going to need to do all of this, you need some sort of impact wrench, either an impact or an impact driver with an adapter and a socket. In this case, it's a 13 millimeter I need. Need something to scrape the grass off, and to lubricate the wheel or the axle, you're gonna need, in this case, it has plastic wheels. So you don't wanna use anything that stays greasy or sticky. You don't wanna use WD-40 or grease or anything that remains in a liquid or that kind of state, because it'll attract dust and just dirt from your lawn, and it'll get between the metal axle and the plastic wheel, and it will just wear it out in no time flat. So if you can use like something like a white lithium grease, it's basically a dry grease. Works well, long lasting, easy to apply, and I mean, you're better off to not use anything than using, say, WD-40 or 3-in-1 oil, motor oil, any kind of lubricant like that. And some petroleum, some plastic will be damaged by petroleum lubricants, so that's something to think about. So yeah, there you go. Another thing you're going to want to use is, say, a screw or a rod, a dowel or something small and smooth. This one has a smooth, where we go, smooth end to it to balance the blade. I'll show you more on that later. But anyway, right now I'll show you taking the blade off. If you don't have an impact, you can just use something to block this, depending on how your mower is. Just wedge a 2x4 in or something. Do not try to hold it with your hand, and use a breaker bar or socket. An impact works great because you don't even have to hold it, it'll just spin it out. If you put it on remove. There we go. That's your bolt. Set that down, I'll put that over there. And in this case, the blade has two separate things to orient it properly. It has a round one and like a half moon on that side, so it will only go on the one way. Yeah, you couldn't even put it upside down. There's no way to put this blade on wrong. Some of them there is, so you might want to mark them or just take note of how it came off of there. That'll come off, and that just sticks on. That's also kind of keyed. Can probably clean that off too, because it's kind of what sucks the grass up, cools the motor, etc. So yeah, you're going to want to clean that up. I'll show you more on doing the blade in a minute, but first I'll just give this a scraping, cleaning. It's not too bad. If you have a metal mower deck, this one's plastic, you might want to use a plastic scraper unless it's already scratched up, in which case not a big deal. Some people coat their decks with undercoating, WD-40, various things to help prevent grass clippings from sticking. This is plastic, so I don't. So. Anyway, okay, I'll just pause it here, finish cleaning, and I'll come back. You won't even know I was gone. All right, so I went ahead and I got this all cleaned off. If you have one, you can use a pressure washer. I have one, I'm not going to use it. But yeah, it wouldn't hurt to pressure wash and get it all clean. If you do have a cordless mower or even an electric mower, be careful with the pressure washer. You might want to tape this up so you don't blast directly into the motor. Not a good thing. Yeah, and so I've got the blade mounted here. Put that there. The blade mounted in the vise. I already did this one side, and here's the edge. I'm going to come do a bit of a close up here. Now you'll see, you want to find which way your edge is leading. It's going off that way. if you do have any chips or anything or dents, see if you can straighten them out first. So you want to get it as straight as you can. And that's just a little nick from hitting a rock or something. But you can straighten it out pretty much. And the sharpened edge only comes to about here. Your blade will have some curve to it, and it usually comes to the inside curve. So, and what you want to do is you want to keep the angle fairly steep, not a shallow attack angle. If you go too shallow, it'll dull really quickly. If you put like a really sharp edge, this is really dull. But you do want a decent edge. This has been worn flat. Like I said, I've had this about 5 years, and this is the first time sharpening it. So I'll back up a bit here, and I'm going to put some earplugs on. What I'm going to do is just quickly go over it. Is a grinder, a little angle grinder with flap disc. I think this is a 60 grit. Not sure. Doesn't matter, it works. I already did the other side, and you just want to take off just enough material to put an edge back on it. And like I said, keep it fairly steep. So here I go. And that should do it. If you look there, much sharper to the touch, and it's again, it's not really a fine edge. You want a very sharp, bluntish edge with a sharp end, and that's it. It only takes a few minutes. Now I'll show you what you want to do to balance it. You might not have to. I mean, this I hardly removed any material, so I doubt it'll need it. But what I do is I take a screw, put it in the vise. If you don't have a vise, you can just put a screw into, you know, anything wood, your wall, whatever, workbench. A big long deck screw like this. Move my coke out of the way and hang the blade from the center hole. And this one's pretty level. Yeah, I'm not seeing any need to balance this. If there's any balance issues, you'll see it start to lean one way or the other and stay there. This one just kind of teeter-totters back and forth and doesn't really go anywhere. They do make blade balancers, but I've always done this, and it's worked just fine. And if you do have one side's balanced, whatever side dips down, you're going to want to take some off, and I always just take it off the back edge just a little bit. Do a very little bit at a time, because you can take the metal off, but you can't put it back on unless you want to weld it, which is a pain in the ass. So just do a little bit at a time. And yeah, that's it. If you look on this blade, it also shows the rotation. There's arrows here. There we go. So yeah, and they have a part number on it in case your blade is too damaged to simply sharpen. You can replace it. And a place like Home Depot, any small engine repair shop should have them for you. You can order them online now. You can get everything online. What can't you get online? So that's it. And then you want to put it back together. Come back here. Bring you back over here. That back on. I suppose you don't need to watch me put it back together. Anyway, that's it. One thing I wanted to mention though, when you're taking it apart and putting it back on, if you're using an impact or a wrench, whatever you're using, if you're using a gas engine, a gas-powered engine, you're definitely going to want to take the spark plug off, take the spark plug wire off at the very minimum. Because if there's still compression, I take the plug out. Because the compression, if you crank in it, it can compress enough that it'll spin back, and people have lost fingers that way by the blade turning, and it builds up compression. Then when it gets to a point, it'll just release and spin around real quick and lop your finger off, and next thing you know, you're like this. Yeah, so that's about it. Again, just lightly lube the wheels if you want. You don't even have to, but it doesn't hurt. But use a dry lithium grease, and That's it. Clean up your inside, take the blade off, sharpen it, put it back on. Bada boom, bada bing, you're mowing again. So that's about it. I'll let you go before this gets too long. Thanks for watching and happy mowing.